Hi, Lane. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, Steve.
Don't know where Mark is today.
I don't know. This is my first meeting, so I'm not sure what to expect. Or
Welcome.
who.
Well, this is the Governance and Risk Compliance GRC uh, SIG group. We've been working on best practices for confidential computing. So, what are the best practices for how to govern systems that are trying to take advantage of confidential computing. So, how do you deal with the verifier? How do you deal with applications? What are the components you need to focus on? So that it's been mostly a documentation organization where we focus on what these things mean in practice.
So are you focused on so I'm from IBM and are you focused on the system side, like what does a system have to provide, or on the use side, like how should you use it safely?
I don't know how to decouple those. It's very much a systems architecture point of view. What are the components in the system, and then how do you configure those systems to get the results that you're looking for? If you want if you want to trust code, what does that actually mean? What does the system architecture need to be, and what do the components need to do? Um, Back when I was a defense contractor, yeah, this all would have fallen under system engineering.
Yeah. And where do you work now?
I work at a company called Injuno. So we make confidential computing solutions. Generally, the way I describe it is we have confidential computing enablement. How do you take an application and run it in confidential computing and do the shift into those environments? Depending on the application and the environment you're going to, that's either a small lift or a big lift. But our goal is to make that a trivial lift no matter which one you want to go after. So we started out in 2017 when IBM was seeding SGX into the marketplace. One of our founders was getting his degree in cryptography at Stanford and was introduced to SGX and essentially did a PhD in SGX at that point, and with a friend of his started up the business. Um, we now support SEV, we support TDX, we support SGX, we support AWS Nitro Enclaves. Um, we don't support System Z, although we've considered it. If our customers take us there, we'll support it. But that's a product we have called C-Glass. And then we have some use cases that plug into that product that are richer because of confidential computing. So we have a clean room product called North Star. We have a AI governance product called Overwatch, and then we have a consulting practice that if somebody looks at one of our use cases and says, "Yes, this is exactly what I want," but I have all these problems, will
Yeah.
help be successful with that.
Yeah. I think that having the consulting arm is really helpful, especially with this kind of stuff. It gets so complicated easily, fast.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. Mark Novak is from JP Morgan Chase and responsible for confidential compute practices inside the bank. And so that's why it's a natural fit for him to lead this
Mm,
organization.
I see. I see. And you have European participants too?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Um, um, but, at the moment, it's just you and I.
No, it's just as chickens.
Yep.
What have you, one of the things that I'm a compliance person, FIPS, common criteria,
Yep.
that floats my boat. And one of the things that does not exist is a protection profile for TEEs, other than the global platform one, which of course doesn't really fit servers because it's for smart card style, small, teeny weeny things. um, and phones. And there's secure element. No, they're not called secure elements. They're secure. What are they called? The things that are in phone. There's a new protection profile out that's supposed to cover those in more generally. So I'm curious how much effort there is to work on any kind of protection profile for server class systems.
I am surprised there hasn't been a motion to do FIPS certification for TEEs. We have government customers who want the things that go into the TEE to be FIPS
Yeah, of
certified.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Of course,
The
but the
algorithm.
whole system, including the FIPS, the only company I know that's done something in that space is Fortanix with their key manager. So what they've done is instead of having custom hardware to build an HSM, they use off-the-shelf hardware to build an HSM.
Mhm.
And so they've gone down that road, but I don't know of anyone else who has.
Hmm, curious. I wonder if the implementations are just too different to be able to do that successfully. I don't know. We've got our secure execution, but all even there's got to be guarantees that they all have to do. Even if that's the minimum for the protection profile. I don't know.
Yeah, that's like I said, I've been surprised that that has not come up. I actually think that would help my business if customers were asking for that, because then we could help them get there as opposed to
Right,
us pushing confidential computing, and there'd be a pull for it in the other direction.
right, right. And then the other thing that I'm curious about is I keep hearing, well, I went to the Confidential Computing Consortium. It was wonderful that it was online. So
Oh,
even though
okay.
I couldn't travel, I
Yep.
could sit in on those sessions. Um, I keep hearing that AI is the killer app for confidential computing, to protect the models, for example. But
Um,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think every industry is saying AI is the killer app for their industry. So I wasn't surprised at the summit that everybody was up talking the same thing. Um, I would say our clean room product was focused on what is now called ML, but used to be called AI. Um,
Mm,
and as LLMs, when as people began to realize what you could do with LLMs, um, the whole tenor of the conversation has shifted, and so we have shifted with it. Our AI product is focused on helping drive agentic security. So the
mm,
the supervisor pattern. I've got an agent, and I want to put a supervisor in place. Well, what makes the supervisor any more trustworthy than the agent if it's just another agent, if you will?
mm,
Obviously, the prompts are different. One's focused on cans, one's focused on should. So, do you need a supervisor, supervisor, or a supervisor, supervisor? So how far down that chain do you want to go? And so, our argument has been that you want to put the supervisor in confidential computing so that you can reason about the security and operations of that supervisor in a way you can't when it's just out in the wild. Um, I think the notion of saying, let's put all your agents in confidential computing or let's put all your models in confidential computing is a bit naive. Um, uh, my reason for that thinking is that the number one used models are Anthropic, ChatGTP, Gemini, Grok. You're not going to convince those organizations that they need to set up a private instance for you in confidential computing that you can go run. Yeah, you can put Mistral in
Wi-Fi.
confidential compute environment. You can run on a Llama thing in confidential computing. That all makes sense if you're doing something local. But when you think from a system point of view, what are the systems you're going to plug into? The 100,000 servers that is Anthropic, they're not all going inside of a TEE, and I'm not even sure what it means to put it inside of a TEE.
Yeah.
In that regard. On the other side, the agents, there are agents that are just code, right? So think lane graph, think lane chain. Yeah, it's a piece of Python code. You can put that in a TEE, no problem. You can even use the properties of identification from the TEE to be useful. But pretty much every single workflow engine in the marketplace has rebranded themselves as an agentic system at this point.
Oh, goodness.
So, how are you going to put automation anywhere into a TEE? How are you going to put 11 labs into a TEE? How are you going to put these types of things that aren't really a piece of code? They're really a state machine. And when the state machine wakes up, it takes
Mm.
a step in its state machine, and that step may be some code running on this server, or it may be
Yeah.
code running on that server, or maybe code running over on that server.
Mhm.
That doesn't lend itself naturally to sticking it inside of a box. So I don't think either one of those are the right places to start, which is why we've gone towards the supervisor as the right place to start.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you with those huge systems. The one thing we're finding with customers though is that they have their own data. They don't want it to leave.
Yep.
They want it to be safe. Even within their own organizations, they have controls, that not just anybody in the bank can use this stuff or access this stuff. But
I,
it reminds me of the little like incubators for newborns or these what do they call them, the chemical that people have hazardous chemicals and they have the gloves and they stick their
yep.
hands in.
Hazmat. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of those in a way that you need to get stuff done in there and you but you just can't have direct access to it. Yeah, some of the things that might fit are obviously security controls themselves, and billing and stuff like that, metering and things that you don't want tampered with.
Yep.
But it has to be high enough value to go through the effort to do it.
We've been finding, interestingly enough, observability is one of the key things people are just trying to get their arms around. What are the agents doing? And what are the agents that people are putting in production most at this point? Coding agents. So what is
Yeah.
Claude Code doing? What information is going back and forth? And so just being able to put some simple rules in place there and some simple observability in place there is providing a ton of value.
Really. Yeah, I had the other day, we have one internally that, we have so many systems and parts of IBM, we're such a big company. And when you need to know, how do I get this done? It's, you sometimes you just don't know, what is the process? And then even if you know today, then next month it changes because they've done something else. So we have multiple AI systems to help us with that stuff.
Yep.
And you were talking about observability. Last week I needed to do something and I was like, come on, just tell me where this is. And what was so cool is that there was sort of a trace, like an execution trace, but it was like a logic trace that told me how it came to that conclusion that it offered me. And I'd not seen that before. That was really, really cool.
That's nice. I don't know which one you're using.
I don't know what runs in which one it is. It's all under the covers of IBM's HR and IT help desk stuff. I suppose it's Bob, probably Bob.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine it's somebody else's LLM.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Who knows? Plus, there's so much of it that is custom to us. I mean, the data that it's operating on and the processes and stuff.
Yep.
So always changing. It's so funny how bookmarks, when I started to do that particular activity, I went to my bookmarks, right?
Yep.
All of which were no longer valid. It's like, well, I have no choice. I've got to use the AI system because I haven't a clue anymore where it has gone, where to find it.
Yep. Yeah. Everything's changing quick at the moment.
Yeah. And it's not just the data itself. I mean, the data changes, like, for example, how do I order a new laptop? Something like that. Or how do my laptop's broken. Where do I go to get it fixed or to get a replacement? It's not just the answers that are changing, it's the process that's also changing.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know how you do it other than with AI.
Well, the way I describe it, the current AI, I tell people is we finally solved the NLP problem. It's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never would have thought vision would have been solved before NLP, but there we go.
yeah,
And now that computers can understand text or can generate passable text and can take action based upon text, it changes the interface significantly to a lot of
yeah,
applications.
yeah.
Uh, and how we interact with things. So,
I had to ask my son. We have this. We live in New Hampshire, and there's a lot of environmentally conscious people here, and my son is one of them. So I was asking him how to interpret something that had some legal thing about it, pesticides and so forth. And I said, I can't find the information. So he goes, he takes the thing that I couldn't understand. It was about water quality and stuff like
yep,
that. And he just grabbed a screen subset, snapshot, and he sent it off to Google. And it was an image. I mean, it was just pixels, right?
yep,
And I was just so impressed that not only did it read all that, which of course, people can do that, but I mean, systems can do that. But then it actually got the answer and found the answer and gave me a reference. It's like, holy cow, this is so powerful.
it is very, very powerful. The ability to take a screenshot, feed it in there, and say, "Hey, I want to fix this bug, and
Yeah.
you should look over in this piece of code."
Mhm. Yeah.
It blows me away.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so back to confidential computing. I guess it is helpful to have um, good use cases, I suppose. If we were going to do anything like a protection profile, if you don't have some use cases in mind, it just blows up.
Yep. That's why we created our clean room product in the first place. Was most of our sales pitches started with, "Have you heard of confidential computing?" And then you feel like a technology that's looking for a problem instead of coming at it the other way around and delivering value.
Yeah.
And so that was all about establishing the value of what we provide in confidential computing with just the means. And oh, by the way, it's built in our enablement stack. If there's other applications that you want to use, we can help you with those
Yeah.
too. But it gives us a starting point for the conversation.
Yeah. It seems like a good alternative to an HSM if you're not required to have an HSM.
Absolutely. I couldn't imagine putting the key systems anywhere else at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. That
I
makes a lot
agree.
of sense. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this meeting's not going to happen today, but
I don't
Elaine,
think
it
so.
was great to meet you.
Same here, Steve. Good talking to you. See you
Okay.
around. All right.
Bye.
Bye.